Hi there, this is Miss Caitlin from Phoebo Kids Art Academy, and welcome back to another amazing art class. Today we're continuing our Around the World series for fall traditions, and we are going to be learning about the tradition called Diwali. Now, this is actually celebrated in India, so we're kind of revisiting a country that we learned about previously. So let's go ahead and dive into our project. I'm going to go ahead and switch to our table view here and show you what we're going to be making. Now, Diwali is the festival of lights, and during this time, or even in general, a very popular form of art is called rangoli. Now, rangoli, they're kind of these patterns that are done onto the floor or the ground, usually done in colored sand, rice, even sometimes just powders or flower petals. Now, I don't have sand for us today, so we're going to be doing this with paper and cutting a lot of different things out. And obviously, since it's the Festival of Lights, we need lots of shine. So we are going to be adding a lot of different gemstones and rhinestones just to really make this stand out from our paper. So you can see I have a lot of gems happening here. So for our project today, we are going to do a practice draw. So you're going to need a sketch paper or just a paper you can feel free to do all of your practicing on. You're also going to need a final piece of paper. I recommend this be a dark piece of paper. The color I used here is like a dark navy blue, but I also have kind of this darker brown color. You could even use black. You're also going to need lots of different colored paper today. You can see I have so many different colors going on, and that's all different colored cardstock. So you can just feel free to take out all the scrap paper you have, any colors. And if you don't have a lot of cardstock paper, maybe you can just color in a white piece of paper the color you want it to be. You're going to need scissors and glue, obviously, a pencil and eraser, and some special things you're going to need are obviously maybe some gems. You don't have to add the gemstones if you don't want to, but I highly encourage it. It'll make it a lot of fun. And of course, today we are having a little visit from our metallic markers. Now, metallic markers, you can get them just about anywhere. You can get any colors you like for this project. You can see I've actually used quite a few different colors in this piece. Otherwise, gel pens also work really nice. You just might not be able to get these very thick strokes that you see in the example. All right, without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and move some of this stuff off to the side. I'm going to move all of the gems first. I'm just going to set those over here. If you don't have metallic markers, you can, of course, just use regular markers if you'd like, just for when you go onto your background when we do this kind of pattern here. Regular markers aren't really going to do you much just because it's hard to draw with a regular colored marker onto a dark piece of paper. Metallic markers are special because they kind of go on top of that, almost like a paint, but not quite. They just have a little bit more pigment to them. All right, I'm going to set our example off to the side. I'm going to take out a practice piece of paper. Now, on the practice draw, I want you to make sure that it's turned vertical, going tall like this. Now, Rangoli, if you look at pictures of them in real life, like some different designs you might see, a lot of them are very much symmetrical, like in a circle. And a lot of the common themes that you might see are flowers, lotus flowers. You might see peacocks as well, because again, celebrated in India, the peacock is the national bird of India. Makes sense, right? So our paper, even though it's going to be vertical and it's going to be still very rectangular, you can feel free when we go on to the coloring later if some of the paper cutouts kind of, go off the sides of the paper. That's fine today. Now for the practice draw, I want us to go ahead and take out a pencil and eraser. I'm going to use a Sharpie just so that you can see. I definitely want you to use your pencil though. And I'm going to show you one main subject that you can have, and then I'll show you two more. The first is the lotus flower, which is actually what I have on the example that I just showed you. So I'm going to help us draw that first. Again, make sure your paper's nice and tall. And you want to go towards the center of your paper. Now in the center of your paper, we're going to draw the first lotus leaf. Now this is going to be almost like a teardrop shape. It's going to be a curved line down, a curved line down, just like a leaf. Okay. Now if you want to see all the different steps first for the three options, you can do that too and just kind of rewind to the one that you want to pick. But if you want to practice all three, please feel free to just do this anywhere on your scratch piece of paper. Next, we are going to add the two leaves on the side. Now to do this, I find it's easy just to start from the bottom here. Draw a kind of a curved line up, like a wave. Do the same thing on the other side, a wavy line up. And then draw a curved line in and a curved line in. And you have the other two sides of the flower. We're going to draw one more pair of petals here. I want you to go towards the bottom. Again, you're going to do a wavy line out and a wavy line out. They're almost like letter S shapes. And then you're just going to connect back to the other petals. So that's the lotus flower shape. You can also add leaves onto the side, but we'll get to those in just a moment. I want to go ahead and show you another option for your flower in the middle, for your main subject. Now, if this is going to be a little tricky for you, don't worry. We're actually going to be cutting that big shape out of a piece of paper later, which will be quite easy to do. But if that is just like, way too many petals, I'm going to go ahead and show you another flower that you could do in the center that will still look really nice. So if you'd like to try a different flower, what I want you to do, make sure your paper is vertical up and down. And this time, we're going to draw a U shape in the center. Nice and big. And then, on either side, I want you to draw a curved line out, a little curved line out. Okay? Then, I want you to draw a little curved line in and a little curved line in. Don't connect them just yet. And then you can draw that leaf shape. So curved line up, curved line up. And you have kind of this more simple flower shape that's still really pretty. Now, if you want something that's still simple, but is kind of big, it takes up more space, I've got the option for you. So this is the last example for your main part in the middle, if you want something a little different. Okay? Paper still needs to be vertical. This time, we're gonna kind of draw a flower that's going around the center here. What I want us to do is kind of, instead of going right in the middle, kind of go just above. Draw a curved line up, curved line down. And yes, it is supposed to be a little bit slanted. Then you're going to draw a curved line out, curved line in, curved line out, curved line in. You can kind of see where this is going. It's like a regular flower shape. We're just kind of making the petals look more defined. Curved line out, curved line in, curved line out, curved line in for 5 petals. So that's another option that you have. Okay? So you can go ahead and decide which one you want to do, and you can draw it onto your practice. Now, if you are just taking some time on that, you can pause the video and take care of that. And then once you're ready to resume, I'm going to show you what we're going to add in next, just so we kind of have a plan for ourselves. So if you are continuing, I'm assuming you're ready to keep going. Now for the lotus flower specifically, I do need to add some just leaves off to the side here, just so that it doesn't look like it's floating. So what I want to do is I'm going to go onto the side of my left petal here, and I'm going to draw just a curved line out and a curved line back in, and do the same thing on the other side. Curved line out, curved line back in. Now for any flower design that you're doing, I want us to add a bottom half. So for this, I want you to take a look at our example. It's a little tricky to see because there's a lot of stuff happening here, but do you see how there is a pink half circle and then an orange half circle? You can ignore these little white areas right now, but you can see there's like one half circle and another half circle. I want us to draw that next. So you're gonna go underneath your main flower and you're gonna draw a big U shape, and then an even bigger U shape. Now, make sure that whatever flower you chose to do, especially if it's that smaller one, you definitely want to add some leaves onto the side too. So you might want to add a leaf and a leaf, leaf and a leaf, and then plan for those half circles like this. Same thing for the other flower. Maybe add in a leaf, and then add in your half circle. And I'll show you what that looks like. You could add a leaf kind of coming down from here and here. You could even add leaves in between all of these petals if you'd like. But you want to add your half circle and then your big half circle. Okay? Last but not least, we're going to do one more curved line, and it's going to go on the top. So it's almost like it goes all the way around. We make a giant oval. So I'm going to start right here on this part of my leaf, and I'm going to draw a big rainbow all the way around. And that is going to be the basic part of our composition that we're going to move on to later. All those other flowers we'll get to draw once we get towards the coloring steps. All right, so go ahead and finish up your practice draw, any other little bits of the composition you want to do, and we're going to go ahead and actually move on to the final draw, which is kind of combined with the final color today. They're kind of the same. So let's go ahead and just set our practice draw off to the side. This is just our plan, nothing serious yet. And I want you to go ahead and have your papers ready to dive into some cutting and drawing. So I already have my final paper kind of off to the side here. And I am not going to do anything with this yet. I'm actually going to go ahead and start cutting out all the different flowers and things that I want to add in. So I'm just going to leave this off to the side. What I want you to do now is I want us to find a color that we want our main flower to be. I'm going to stick with the color that I did on my example, which is a blue, but you can use any color you want. So I have this piece of paper here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the shape that I did for my main flower onto here one more time. So whatever flower you chose, you're going to draw that onto your new piece of paper. Now remember, this is your main flower. It's the main star of the show. You want to make sure it's big. So don't draw your flower teeny tiny. Make sure it's like maybe this big, a good big size. All right, so go ahead and draw in your flower. Don't draw any leaves, just the petals that we made. So I'm going to do the lotus flower. I'm going to draw my curved line down and my other curved line down. Again, I'm drawing in Sharpie so you can see, but you should definitely use your pencil for this part. And then I'm going to draw my curved line up and my curved line up, curved line in and curved line in. And then, last but not least, curved line out, curved line out. And then connect, connect. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and start cutting this out. So you can take your scissors and begin to cut this flower out. Now, I've done mine in Sharpie, which means I can really see all of the pencil lines I just made. But you might be able to erase yours here at the end. Now, maybe you might want to keep them so that maybe you can do some designs later and you can kind of remember where you drew each of the little petals. And that's just going to be up to you. If you're uncertain, why don't you just keep your pencil lines for now? And you can decide if you'd like them to be erased later. But we're not going to be outlining this in Sharpie or any markers right now. Now, just so that I make this a little easier on myself, I'm going to cut off all this extra paper that's around my flower, just so that I can twist and turn the scissors with ease. And I'm just going to set this scrap paper off to the side. There's a lot of it, so I'm going to save it for another project. But if there wasn't really a lot left, I would probably recycle that. All right, so go ahead and continue cutting out your main subject here. Okay, so Diwali this year, the date also changes. It follows a different calendar than the one we use internationally. This year, Diwali happens on November 14th. Now, usually Diwali is a 5-day festival, which is awesome. There's lots of lights, there's lanterns, candles, and fireworks shows. What would a festival of lights be without fireworks, really? Lots of people light lights into their homes. And of course make rangoli like we are making today. Even if ours is a little bit different than how it's traditionally done. All right, so there's my flower. Now these pieces are kind of small. I don't know if I'll be able to use them for another project later, so I'm just going to gather them up and set them off to the side here. Now what's great about this is that you can clearly see that I can just flip this over and it looks like I don't even have my Sharpie lines. But even still, I'm going to go ahead and just set this off to the side here. And I'm going to go ahead and prepare some other parts of my piece that I need for my final draw. Now for the final draw, I remember that I had leaves that I need to create. Now I have this green scrap paper here. I don't think I'm going to need this part, so I'm just going to snip that off. You don't have to use scrap paper, just scrap paper. You can use your full pieces, but I try to make sure I'm using my paper wisely, so I'm using the scrap paper here. And I'm going to go ahead and draw a leaf onto here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my 2 leaves onto my green paper. And to do that, I'm going to draw a curved line down and a curved line up to make a leaf shape. It almost kind of looks like a teardrop shape, don't you think? Now I'm going to go ahead and cut that out, and just so that I make sure that they're the same on both sides, before I draw that second one, I'm going to cut out the first leaf and kind of use it as a stencil to draw the second one. You'll see what I mean in just a second. Again, this is kind of our final draw and final color combined, but we're really just drawing out things first and cutting them. All right, so here's my leaf. I'm going to go ahead and draw a stencil of it for the second leaf. So I'll kind of take the leaf, I'll flip it over, and I'll outline the leaf. So that way, I have another leaf shape there, and it's the exact same size. And then I'll cut that out. So you can try and think about it that way. When you're trying to make something symmetrical, and you're cutting things out, you can just use the first shape that you made as a stencil, and then you can cut out the other shapes from it, just so that they're all the same size, and that they're exact. Okay, again, just setting my little scraps off to the side. I'll recycle those later. And then I have my 2 leaves. So check that out. Cool, right? Now I'm going to go ahead and also set these off to the side. Next, I'm going to go ahead and draw in my small half circle. Now for this, I know that I want this to be pink, but you can choose any color you'd like. Just make sure it's something completely different from your main flower color and your leaves. I'm going to use this pink paper. You can see it's also a piece of scrap paper, and this half circle was here before, but I actually really like its size. So what I'm going to do is find an edge of my paper. You can do it this way if it makes sense for you. And you're going to draw that U shape that you practiced on your practice drawing for that small half circle. And then you're also going to cut that out. So you can see we're kind of gathering our pieces here. Again, if you need to just pause the video so that you can go at a pace that you're comfortable with, please feel free. There's no rush. Okay. I'm going to set that off to the side and put my paper back with its pile. Now for that big half circle, I am going to probably need a pretty big piece of paper. Now at this point, I want to make sure that my half circle isn't bigger than my flower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of do some planning. I'm going to take my flower. Remember, it does need to be a half circle. I know this is going to go underneath it, so I'm just going to slide that underneath and kind of double check. I'm going to take my leaves. Here we go. And those need to go with my flower. So I'm going to kind of look and see, all right, I see how big the half circle needs to kind of be. I don't want it to go past my leaves or my petals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my little kind of plan at the top here. And I'm going to hold that down, and I'm just going to very carefully draw my half circle underneath. And then I'll just take all this, set it off to the side because it served its purpose. I'll just make sure that my line connects to the top, and then I have my half circle I can use. about the size I need it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. And just be careful as you work on this. Again, it's okay if it's not super duper precise, just try your best to keep on working. And take this paper and set it off to the side. I'm going to double check the shape, kind of looking at it. Looks pretty even to me. So I'm going to go ahead and also just kind of scoop that up with all of the paper that I'm collecting. Now, remember, we had one more part of our picture that we drew on the top, which was that really, really big half circle shape, but this time it's on the top there. Now, I know I want that color to be yellow, so you're probably going to need a pretty big piece of colored paper for this. So I'm going to go ahead and take out my yellow paper. It's very bright. And we're kind of going to do the same thing that we did. We're going to take our pieces and we're going to plan for how big we need it to be. Now, I want to make sure that it's not too big, it doesn't go past my leaves. So again, I'm going to kind of arrange the flower how I want it to be. And I see here that I can probably get away with going up and over like so. Now, if that's not going to work, if that's just going to be way too tall, I don't like how that looks. I can kind of play with the paper a little bit and decide, okay, I think I want it to be maybe that big. I think that looks good. And remember, we don't want it to go past our leaves because then we're going to start seeing some of those paper cut lines that we're creating. So I want to make sure that it kind of lines up with this part of the leaf here, kind of towards the inside. I'm going to just hold down my paper and I'm going to draw that big curved line up, over, and down. I'll move my flower out of the way, and then I can go ahead and just make sure those connect to the bottom. And there I have my really big half circle, all measured out. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out now. This is a pretty big half circle, so just try your best. If you need to erase lines and try again just to get it the size you'd like, totally understand. Just take your time. Now, Diwali is celebrated differently depending on where you live in India. India, of course, is made up of lots of different people. It's very diverse. So everybody kind of has, their own traditions and their own reasons for celebrating. Some more popular than others. Okay? I bet some of you might even know more about it than me, which is really exciting. It's always so cool when students can help me learn more about what they know too. All right, so once you get those papers all cut out, we can go ahead and start planning them onto our vinyl paper here. So I'm going to start with planning in, okay, my half circles. Let's take a look-see here. Okay, I think I'm going to just kind of move those down a little bit. I know that the pink one needs to be kind of with the orange. The flower needs to go in the center. And it looks like the leaves are going to go right about here to here. All right, that looks pretty good. It's pretty close to what I have on my example as well. So now we can start gluing things down. We'll start with gluing down the stuff in the back and the flower on top. This we can now consider to be truly the final color. Ta-da! I know, pretty fast, right? So I'm going to go ahead and remove the flower. I'm just going to set it off to the side. And we're going to glue down our half circles first. In fact, we're going to glue down these two guys. So go ahead and take your glue. I'm going to do the orange one first. And you're going to glue it down onto that dark piece of paper that you saved for the final draw, or from the final draw. Need a little more glue. If you don't have a stick of glue, you can use a glue stick or a Elmer's glue bottle. You can also use double-sided sticky tape if that's what you've got. I know everybody's kind of working with whatever they have on hand right now. I'm going to go ahead and stick that down, make sure it's just about in the center. And then I'll do this half circle next. Now, by the way, if you're not happy with how big this turned out, you can always kind of trim it down. You can draw maybe a new half circle on the inside if you want it to be smaller, but if you want it to be bigger than what you made, you might need to get a new piece of paper and just cut it out. Alternatively, you could later just draw more designs around it if it's too small. You can do that with your metallic markers or with a light material like a white color pencil. That would be fine too. So there's lots of different ways to sort of get the look that we're going for, making sure that this is all lined up. Okay, there we go. All right, now, as I'm gluing this stuff down, I'm gonna go ahead and do my pink half circle next, but I do want to tell you guys about a couple of the celebrations that are happening for Diwali. Now, of course, it is the Festival of Lights, so the most popular reason for celebrating Diwali is a good triumphing over evil, or light triumphing over darkness, which makes sense, right? You're lighting all of this light. For some, this celebration also kind of coincides with the turn of a new year and harvest celebrations, which makes sense. I think a lot of us are celebrating harvest during the fall. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and glue down my leaves next, and then the flower will be last. Now, there are a lot of different legends that can go along with Diwali. I'm gonna share just the two that I know. So the first is that for Diwali, we are honoring Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth. And you light lights in your home to help her kind of find her way into your house. Now the second that I know about, and by the way, I'm going to turn mine so that you can't see the Sharpie lines, because this will be a little bit more similar to what yours looks like right now. Now the second one is that Diwali might be a celebration of the legend, the story of the return of Rama and Sita to Rama's kingdom after 14 years of exile. But these are just the ones that I know. However, maybe you might know of another story or another reason for celebrating Diwali, or what is honored during this time. All right. So now I'm going to just make sure my flower's in a spot that I really like. And there we go. Now, this looks very simple and very flat right now. We don't really have a lot of other things going on, but we're soon going to fix that. What I want us to do is I want us to go ahead and plan in our little outside decorations here, because that's going to be really the last part that we cut out. If you want, you can also cut out some other shapes if you'd like them to go in the center or anywhere around your little half circles that you created. You can see that I have kind of these flowers that go onto the outsides because I thought that would be really fun. They also kind of remind me of fire a little bit, or like a candlelight. But I'm also going to cut out some white paper to kind of be a part of this design on the inside. You don't have to stick on gemstones to this part, but I might. So I'm going to go ahead and just prepare that. I'm going to show you how to draw that flower. For those of you who maybe did that second example from the practice draw, it's the exact same flower shape, just smaller. And I'm going to do this on a few different colored pieces of paper. Now this part is of course optional, which is why I left it to the coloring step, but I'm going to go ahead and show you it anyway. I'm going to do my first flower, I believe, in a green, and this will be my stencil. So I'm just going to scoot our paper off to the side here. I'm going to bring out this very bright green we have. And just like from the practice, we're going to draw a U shape. Oh, there we go. Then two curved lines. Curve, curve, and curve up, and curve down. And then we'll just cut that out, and that will be our stencil, and also one that we'll glue down. Now there's quite a bit of green paper here, so I'm just gonna cut out all that excess paper. So that way it's easy for me to kind of get at this shape a little bit better. kind of cutting around. Of course, at this time, for celebrating Diwali, like I said, lots of different ways to celebrate, but it's a great time for family to come together, exchange gifts, wear new clothes. Again, maybe light sparklers together, watch fireworks, and just celebrate. Right, so I'm cutting around here. There we go. And you can see it looks like this really fun flowery fire shape. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. I'm going to collect my scrap paper, and I'm going to do this a few more times to create those flower shapes along the borders here. Now if I look, again, that'll be my little stencil. If I look and see how many I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to cut out 7 more of these. I'll do one more in green just so that it kind of matches what I have here. And then I'll pick some other colors. Now, I'm going to try and pick warm colors because, of course, this is the Festival of Light. We think of light as warm colors, orange, red, and yellow. But you can see I also have chosen green, so you can really have fun with the colors that you want to do. So, of course, I'm going to do all of my outlines in Sharpie just so that you can see. But I want you to do yours in pencil. So that way you don't see any of these lines later. Okay, I'm going to leave my little stencil shape up there. Again, just going to cut off any extra paper and set that off to the side. And cut around the edges. All right, here we go. Great. Now also during this time, people might get their hands decorated with henna, which has actually become pretty popular these days. You might have seen like different henna. I'm not quite sure what you call the tube that it comes in. Maybe it's just called the tube. But you might see them at different like craft stores and things like that because it's really beautiful. It's a form of art all in itself. I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. Collect my scrap paper and find another color to do. I think I'm going to go ahead and maybe do one orange. Maybe I'll do more, but I need quite a few of these still. So I'm going to take this, again, take my stencil, do my outline, and just keep on going. Now, if you would like to do less of these, you don't have to do 8. You could just do maybe 4. If you'd like to. You could even do different shapes. You can do any flower shape that will make sense for you and your picture. So I'm doing these ones that we kind of learned at the beginning, but if you want all of your different flowers to look the same, I encourage you to just do the same shape that you want to do. All those little scraps getting cut off. Ooh, there we go. And still working around, just cutting out these little petals. Now, for the fall, at least in the northern hemisphere, and it even kind of depends on where you live, but for a lot of us, the fall is this changing of the seasons into this period of time of cold, right? So a lot of us, especially live in the more northern parts of the northern hemisphere, during the fall, during these autumn months, are very much worried about staying warm and having lots of celebrations of, whether it be Diwali, the celebration of light. I think a lot of us are celebrating, you know, warmth and those kinds of things and coming together, which I think is really special. I'm going to go ahead and use the last bit of this red scrap paper for another shape. Now, a lot of different fall festivals, as we've been kind of learning, they follow different calendars, Diwali included. It doesn't happen the same day every year on the international calendar that we all use. There we go. Now, from what I understand, Diwali always happens on a very specific month during the Hindu lunar solar calendar. Now, I actually am not familiar with this calendar myself because I don't use it. I just use the one we use internationally. But I believe I may have mentioned that lots of different places, lots of different people use different calendars. The lunar calendar is a great example, one that we're probably all familiar with. It uses the moon to keep track of the days. For about 30 days for a full, transition of the moon through its phases. There's this calendar that I just told you about, the lunar solar calendar. There's also, I believe, a Hebrew calendar, and probably even more that I don't even know about. Maybe you might know some. I'm also going to go ahead, I'm going to do I might do 2 more red. So I'm going to go ahead and have this here. I'm going to scoot our little example over and do 2 more stencils on the red. So as we kind of talk about these traditions, I'll always try to mention the day that it's celebrated on this year particularly. But you'll find as you go and do research maybe on celebrations past, they happen on different days in the international calendar, which is the one that we use most often. Okay, I'm going to kind of scoot this over. I'll do one here. You can see my stencil. It's got a lot of Sharpie on it. Yours probably has a lot of pencil on it at this point. Right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these. And I'm going to go ahead and cut these 2 out. Again, I'm just going to kind of remove all that extra paper that I don't need. I'll recycle it later. There we go. Now our desk might get a lot of glue on it today because there's just a lot of gluing that's going to happen. So be prepared maybe at the end of your project to clear off your desk space and maybe give it a wipe down. There we go. Still working our way around. All right, here we go. I think for the sake of time, I'm only going to do 6. Surely you can do more if you'd like. You can pause the video and do the full 8. So these, as you can tell, they take a bit of time to cut out. So I am only going to do the 6 right now. Or excuse me, the 7 right now, I believe. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But if you'd like to do more, you can. Okay, here we are. It's quite a few. It does take a bit of time. All right, let's see here. 1, 2, 3. Excuse me, I did cut out 6. That's right. Okay, so now that we have enough of these, again, you can cut out more if you'd like, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of start pairing them up. So I'm going to do maybe the green with a red because they're complementary. They're really going to stand out next to each other. So I might put 2 down here. Maybe I might put a red one on the opposite side. Maybe I'll put an orange one with that. Again, I know it's kind of big. It's bigger than the space I have on my desk. And I'll do 1 here and 1 here. But of course, you can add even more if you'd like to. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of glue and we are going to glue down those corners. So what's going to be easy first is if we just kind of set our flowers off to the corners. I know it kind of goes off the screen a little bit, but it'll make sense for you to do this as well because it'll just be easy to keep track of everything. So we'll draw a little bit of glue here in all of the corners. And you're just going to glue down your first flower there, or the first shape that you added. So for me, it's going to be the green over here. I'll do orange first here. Kind of make it go that way a little bit. I'll do red, and then red just goes here. And then since I have two flowers in those other corners, I'm going to have to put down a little more glue just so that it sticks to the top of that one here. So I'll take that and glue them down. So you can see we have kind of like this really fun flowery design going on here. Again, you can go ahead and feel free to cut out the last two, but for the sake of time, I'm going to let you do that on your own, and you can pause the video and then keep going. Now, I also said I'm going to cut out some white circles here just so that I can have more of a design, or of a more interesting design, which I am going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and just take some white paper. I'm going to draw 5 circles. You don't want them to be too big. And do this in pencil. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll cut all of these out. I'm just going to make it easier on myself and kind of cut them out from this paper here. And set those off to the side. I'll make it even easier on myself. There we go. And I'll cut each of these off. So that way I don't have to worry about trying to be like cutting around a big piece of paper. Now again, this part can be pretty detail oriented, so it might take you no time at all, or it might take you lots of time to do this part. Just go at your own pace and have fun. This project is pretty relaxing just because there's a lot of different things that we're cutting out. It's very repetitive in a way, some of these parts, which can be nice. Prepares you for what's going to come next. And I mean, that is what a pattern is after all, is something that repeats. So it makes sense a lot of the things that we would be creating would repeat over and over, and we would do a lot of repetitive things to create it. Right. Now after we glue these little faces down, we are going to go ahead and break out those metallic markers and have a lot of fun creating a design on the inside of our piece. Now again, if you don't have metallic markers, you can just use whatever materials you have available. I might recommend, again, like a color pencil, anything like that, because color pencil on toned or dark paper really stands out. Now again, you guys have done this in pencil, so you're not going to see those lines really. You get to erase them, but I've done them in Sharpie, so you're still going to be able to see them. But your piece will look much more neat. All right, so I'm working, just cutting out that last little part, and there we have it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and kind of plan these in. I'm going to make sure they all fit. If they don't, I might exclude one. Okay, I think I could fit all 5 in here. There, I think I can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those down. Flip each of them over and glue. Now if you want, you could even do this onto the upper part of the picture, like along this yellow part here, or for me it's the yellow part, for you it might be a different color. That's going to be up to you. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to put my glue stick away. We are all done with it, and I'm going to take out those metallic markers. So I have them all over here. I just have a bunch. I even have some Sharpies that happen to be metallic. So with these, I'm going to go ahead and pick a color to do the petals on the inside of my flower. Now for the lotus flower, we drew in those different leaf shapes. Now yours were done in pencil, which you can still see. Mine were done in Sharpie, but now I'm going to help you kind of outline them here. Now you can use really any color you want for this part. I have a lot of different colors of metallic markers, but I use sort of like a pink or a purplish color on this section. So I'm going to go ahead and take a marker like that. It's analogous almost, so I'm going to use this color here. And I'm just going to do the outline of the same shape that we did when we did the practice draw. So I'm going to take it, do that curved line down, wavy line out, connect, wavy line out, connect. Again, just kind of helping that along, and do the same thing for the last petal. Now these happen to be brush tipped markers, which means they're not like a Sharpie. I'll show you, I have a Sharpie metallic marker here. Or they have kind of like this very stiff end, but these ones are like brushes, so they bend really easy. This allows you to get really dynamic or interesting lines, which means some parts might be thin when you draw the line and some parts might be bigger. So if you are able to pick up markers like these, you'll notice that you can have a lot of fun experimenting with different line widths, just to make your drawing or your outline much more interesting. All right, so there's the inside of the flower. We're gonna do the same thing on the leaves. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick the green one, of course. And I'm gonna go ahead and kind of do another outline on both leaves. And then you can also add in the veins on the inside of the leaf if you want to. So a line out, and then these kind of short little lines to show all those different leaf veins. Now for the next part, I want this to be very, very bright and shiny. So these metallic Sharpies happen to be really good at just doing that. So I'm going to take the metallic Sharpie, and on the inside of this small half circle, I'm first going to draw another half circle down, and then another half circle on the inside. Not quite an outline, but I want this line to be actually quite thick. So we're having a lot of fun right now. If there's another design that maybe you wanted to do, you can absolutely do that. You don't have to follow me exactly at this point, but I am showing you kind of how we can get this to look pretty much like a pattern. Now I want this to look like a flower here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do U-shapes, U-shape, U-shape, to kind of make it look like another flower is underneath the lotus, like that. All right. Now if you have room, you can also do maybe another outline next to these circles here, but for me, I don't really have a lot of room, so I'm just going to go ahead and work on a design inside the circles. I'm thinking I'm just going to draw with this kind of golden bronze marker circles onto the inside. And then I can draw in maybe some flowers here. So I'm just doing U-shape, U-shape, U-shape all the way around to make flowers. Now you may have noticed on my example that I showed us, there are gems here. So I can add gems on top of these later. I could even take this same Sharpie and outline the outsides. You can see how pigmented these markers are. They just covered up any of that black Sharpie that was still left over from when I was showing you how to draw the circle. Even so, you can choose to do this part if you'd like. Again, this is all about kind of creating your own pattern. Now remember, traditionally, these are done in colored sand and on the floor. So imagine the precision, how precise you have to be with getting the sand to do exactly what you want it to do. All right, so I'm pretty happy with how that looks. I'm gonna go ahead and shift into working onto this outer part here. So I'm gonna do this with maybe I did it with a pink on the original piece because the background was blue, but I have a brown paper right now. So I maybe am going to do more of the green. I'll go for like a bronze and green kind of look. So I'm gonna take my green marker one more time. I'm first gonna do like a little test. I'm gonna do a little leaf shape on the bottom here and see how vibrant that is. It's pretty vibrant, but I think I might want it a little lighter. I might just stick with the bronze. So I'm going to take my marker from before and I'm just going to draw leaf shapes all along the sides. Now to draw a leaf shape, again, I'm just doing a curved line up, curved line up. I'm doing that all along this bottom half. You can make some big, you can make some small. You can change it up. You could even do flower shapes or petal shapes. It's really up to you. You could do spiky lines, you can do curved lines, whatever suits your fancy. All right, so that looks pretty good. If you want, you can even do like a double outline of that where kind of go along the top. And you do it like another outline, sort of like this. You follow the lines you created before. And really get into it and all the little details that you could do. Again, totally optional. You could go for a completely different design if you want. But now we're gonna go ahead and work onto the top. Now on the top of my example, I did these gems here, which helped with the kind of look and the pattern. But I don't have gems, and I don't know if I'll have enough room for some of those gems at the top for this particular piece. So I'm gonna continue this pattern that I did on the bottom onto the top. So I'm still gonna do those leaf shapes all along the top. So I'm just gonna keep on working until I get to the point where I can't draw any of those anymore. So I kind of got to the sides and I could no longer work there. Continuing the leaf shapes. All right. So that looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it at that. If you want, again, you can do kind of that double outline onto the top. You may not be able to get into all those itty bitty little sections, and that's okay. Just try your best. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and do some outlines on the flowers that we made. You can do these in any colors you want. Again, I'm thinking for the green, I'm gonna go in with a green for an outline, but maybe for the reds, I might choose a purple. So on the inside, I'm gonna do an outline, just following the lines of my shape. Nothing too extreme here. Working my way around. And I'll do that onto the red flowers as well, but I'll use probably a purple, just so that you can see it. Now I can't see all of this red flower anymore because the green is covering some of it, which means I just can't outline all of it. That's okay. Again, because of the brush tip, you'll notice some of those lines, they're thick and some of them are thin, depending on where I was putting the pressure onto the marker when I was drawing. All right, for that orange one, I'm probably gonna go in with a gold or a bronze color. I'll scoot that down so you can see. And just do that outline once more. Okay. All right, so you could stop here if you wanted, but I am gonna go now and add in some gems. So I'm gonna take all of my markers and set them back off to the side. I'm gonna gather them all up. They're gonna go over here. I'm gonna break out the gems that I've got today. So I've got a lot of warm colored gems, I got a lot of red, and I've got a lot of orange, and I have blue and purple, but you can use any kind that you have available to you. And what I'm gonna do, I'm probably gonna start with this red just because I've got a lot of it. And I'm gonna probably take a line off. Just be careful when you do this. And similar to how I did the border along on my first example that I showed us, I'm going to do that with this red color of gems here. Now you could pick these off and do them one by one, but sometimes they come glued in a line like this, so you can kind of do it all in one big go, which is what I'm going to do here. So I'm kind of taking the gems, I'm going along the edge as best I can and kind of just working my way around here. So again, just be careful when you do this. You don't want to accidentally have all the gems stick together. So I have like a whole line of them. Just going to try and line them up. I know it's very sticky. You can see even they're sticking to me quite a bit. Just going to scoot that over and follow that edge as best I can. Now, if you find that your gems are not all glued in a line on that paper or on these little sheets that you receive, that's okay. It might take you just longer to do this part because you might have to take them off one by one. Okay. Go ahead and take another line of these. I'm going to probably start right there. I'm just being very careful as I work. Okay, got a little spot right there. Then I have a tiny little part there I need to do. So I think this last little chunk is going to get us right up to the end. You can tell I'm really concentrating here. You might be concentrating really hard as well. Oh, it was perfect. There we go. All right, so that is all glued down. The gems will oftentimes come with a little bit of like an adhesive on the bottom of them already. Now, if you still find that's too plain, you can of course add maybe like another row, but I actually am quite okay with how that looks. So I'm gonna go ahead and start decorating other parts of my piece. So I'm gonna take the orange. These ones are glued also in a line, but they're going horizontally, this sheet, so I have to take them off one by one. And I'm gonna put little orange gemstones onto the points of all of my flowers in my picture. Now at this point, you can just have a lot of fun with where you're placing these. It doesn't have to be exactly where I place them. I'm gonna show you a few. And then I'll show you the example that I made so that you can kind of pause the video and check out where I put the gemstones, just so that you don't have to sit here and watch me do, all hundreds of these gemstones that I did on the example. This one's a lot of fun because you can really keep working on it and adding lots of things and making it super detailed. I'm just putting some gemstones on the centers of the petals because I like that and how it looks. You can see by adding all of these really sparkling sort of aspects to the picture, it takes on like an entirely new look to it, which is really fun. All right. So again, you can keep adding gems wherever you like. I think another place that I'm going to add gems right now is maybe on this half circle on the bottom. I'm gonna do that probably with the red again, just so that it kind of stays consistent. But you can have fun and add whatever colors you want to those areas. It doesn't have to be the same as me. Go ahead and just carefully remove. There we go. Oh, very sticky. So again, just be careful. Make sure they're all kind of lined up. I'm going to stick them right here along that little space between the pink half circle and the orange half circle. I'll break that off here and glue that down. Again, they're already sticky on the bottoms, these ones that I have today, but maybe yours aren't. You might have to take some glue and just help them along. All right, so you can keep going at this. You can really have just a lot of fun adding gemstones to all the little different corners and different flowers in your picture. So here's a little gem that's kind of gotten lost here. So I'll go ahead and show you the example from before that we were working off of today, just so that you can pause the video if you want and take a good look at it and see where I placed all the other gemstones. So here you go. You can see I also use some different sizes. I have these like rather large ones here and in the center. You can even see you can use different colors, like I used red on the picture we made together, but I used yellow on this one. I even added lots of gemstones to the leaves and onto the different little corners of the flowers. So again, have a lot of fun with this project. You can spend lots of time on it. Pause the video if you need to and take a look at this just to see the different placements. Otherwise, that is the end of our project. So I hope you guys had a lot of fun. Just make sure to put away anything that was maybe a little messy. If you're using an Elmer's glue, make sure you kind of clean that up from your desk if you got anything on it. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and give you a proper farewell. Excellent job today, and be sure to share what you've made onto our Fibo Village Facebook page. I would love to see. Along with the image that you create, maybe you can share one fact you learned about Diwali, or you can look up another fact that maybe you didn't learn about in class. And I hope again that you had a lot of fun. Have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you again very soon. Bye for now.